Conference championship weekend was filled with some surprises, but we're here to go over what NFL draft prospects this past weekend helped their stock, hurt their stock. Welcome to the Stock Report, and what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. We're going to be covering a lot of different things this month on the channel as guys transfer, guys declare, guys decide to return. It's going to be very interesting, very fascinating, so stay tuned in to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, then hey, you can get 20% off at Manscaped plus free shipping when you use promo code Broshmo at checkout. Let's go ahead and get into this with Julius Brents, the cornerback out of Kansas State. 6'4", 202, and he had an interesting game this past weekend against TCU. They did end up ultimately winning the game, but it was definitely interesting as he allowed 2 receptions for 54 yards. Of course, he had the big 53-yarder he allowed against Quentin Johnston, where it was puzzling. This is probably one of the biggest gripes. This is one of the guys I really want to get into since he had accepted a Senior Bowl invite. But probably my biggest gripe with him, I saw that, and then I went back, watched some other tape from from this season, and you can just see he doesn't have a great feel for coverage, or at least a good understanding of route combinations and such. Like on that Johnston play, like he totally he turns and he's playing it like it's about to be a vertical route, and Johnston just cuts it to the middle of the field and is wide open. But outside of that, he was targeted 8 times in this game. He did a very good job. He did a solid job. He came away with an interception that was a bit underthrown because of pressure there in the end zone. He was flagged a couple of times in this game, one being in the end zone against Quentin Johnston, where there wasn't enough time for him to get his head turned around, and he just kind of fell onto Johnston. But I thought, for all the ups and downs, I came away hey, this guy's 6'4", he's 202. If anything, he's got imposing size. He's got good straight line speed. He's real gritty at the line of scrimmage or in press. He is strong. He is tough to get off the line against. So I think at least early in his career, ideally you want this guy in man coverage. And it's just interesting going into a little bit of his background. He was actually a former Hawkeye, and then he decided to transfer in 2021, played for the Wildcats in 2021. It was pretty productive, and this year we've seen a bit more in terms of ball skills. He still feels a bit clunky in his transition. He looks tall in his back pedal. I don't know if that's just because he's 6'4", but when he does turn there'll be a lot of times where he turns prematurely in his back pedal, and that might have been, I don't think that really was the case against Johnston because they were already 20, 30 yards downfield when that happened. But you could just tell that the footwork, the balance is just it's a little clunky in his transition. The lateral movement's not ideal, but this guy's been a very good run defender, and I went ahead, I was like, you know what, let's slap a midday 3 grade on him and let's see how he does at the Senior Bowl. I am very excited for him, and we're going to go ahead and move on to another Kansas State prospect here in Malik Knowles. The wide receiver, 6'3", 200 pounds, had a really solid game for Kansas State. He kind of lit the spark on this offense. He had a reception for 40 yards. He had the jet sweep that went for, I think, another 40. And this guy is just electric with the ball in his hands. Straight up, he is electric. He's been a very good return man. Last year he had 2. In 2021, he had 2 kick returns for touchdowns. Here, let me go. I want to see specifically what his numbers are. Throughout his career, he had another kick return touchdown in 2019. Hasn't been used, at least from what I'm seeing here, on punt as a punt returner. But, you got that return mentality, man. I kind of want that. This guy's so good after the catch. Right now, he's got 14 forced missed tackles on the season, and that's on 47 receptions, so that's pretty darn good. He was electric in this game. Some of the things to know with him that you probably won't like, I really think he ends up being a slot only receiver. At least that's what I think. I know this season he primarily plays on the outside. 94% of his snaps have come on the outside, and that's true for last year as well. But like, this guy struggles to get off the line. He really does. Like, if he can't win with his feet and a little bit of quickness, then he struggles to get off the line. So I think there's a noticeable lack of physicality to his game for a guy that's 6'3", 200 pounds, which is kind of interesting. But nonetheless, I think he ends up being a slot guy if you're going to use him as such. Like, just based on what he can do as a receiver, I wouldn't say. I honestly, I don't think he'd be draftable, but that return ability really, I think, makes him like this potential like late day 3 prospect. He has shown improved hands, but still the ball skills aren't great. They aren't ideal. He's not he runs a very simplistic route tree there at Kansas State. Like, a lot of his stuff is on verts, and those vertical route trees pretty solid. Like, he does a really good job of selling fakes to the corners, whether it's with his head or with shoulders, body in general. He does a good job of that. But typically you're seeing this dude utilized in motion, jet sweeps. Like, I think this is a guy that offensively you're going to want to scheme his production early. But like the return, like, he's going to find a place on a roster just because of that return capabilities. Deuce Vaughn, a guy that we do know a lot about, had a really good game as well. So I'm not really going to mention him. I like to try to maybe bring up guys I haven't really talked about on the channel, or guys maybe I haven't talked about in a long time. But let's go ahead, move to the TCU prospects in Dylan Horton. I have talked about this guy earlier in the year on the channel, and I'm going to do it again. You had 4 pressures, 2 sacks. He was constantly getting in the face of Will Howard. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to quell the Wildcats in this ball game. But I'm a big fan of Horton. I think he'd be a midday 3 pick. This cat used to play over, I believe, at New Mexico. Right now, trying to pull up the background. Yeah, he was a former 3-star recruit at the 2018 class. He was used as a rush linebacker at New Mexico, and eventually moved to TCU in 2021 or 2020, and then didn't really carve out a role until 2021, where he had 21 pressures and 3 sacks on 500 snaps. And then this year, he's basically doubled those numbers over similar snap totals. So you love to see that. Like, this guy used to be a safety in high school. He has put on 60 pounds since beginning his collegiate career. I think it's maybe even closer to 70 at this point. And it's like, you could still see the athleticism from this guy. This guy, he will chase down ball carriers down the field. He's fast. I like that. And a lot of times he's just winning with that pure athleticism. And I love that this dude never quits on plays. However, I think play strength might be a thing, though. He looks pretty solid this past week against Kansas State. Like, he was getting the left tackle all kinds of trouble, left and right, because they kept rotating his sides. But yeah, I think still there are aspects of his game that are still probably where he's a project. Like, it's not like he's got a very diverse skill set, a diverse toolbox. But I'm a big fan. I was talking up this guy earlier in the year. It was good to see him have a big game this weekend. I do want to mention some of the guys from TCU in general. One being Josh Newton, because we already know with Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, that dude's like late day 2, maybe even maybe early day 3. But like, Josh Newton really intrigued me. He's a former transfer from Louisiana Monroe. He was former Warhawk, and he's basically been a starter almost like his whole career. I've only watched a very little bit of him, and like, his closing speed's really good. but I'm not that impressed with him early in the rep against wide receivers. I don't really like. I'm gonna go back and watch more of him because this dude has legit ball skills. Over the last 2 seasons, over the last 3 seasons, 2 of them being at Louisiana Monroe, he has I'm doing the math, 22 pass breakups, 6 interceptions. So it's there. It's there for him. Like I did notice he gets beat on like a lot of slants or a lot of early routes. Gojo, why are you digging on the? You don't dig in the carpet, bud. What you giving me that look for? Golly, but yeah, I need to go back watch more of him. I haven't really settled on opinion about him yet. He's had a really good year for TCU. TCU, low key defense, pretty solid. So you like to see the step up in play and him just getting better. But yeah, not a for sure opinion on him just yet. I just kind of want to mention him. Max Duggan also. Banger game. Still probably late day 3. More than likely priority UDFA though. He doesn't. It's not like he has a big arm. It's not like he's got a very limited physical skill set. But there's like you like to see the progression in his career, but honestly, I just think there's other guys at the quarterback position I'd rather like take shots at that have maybe a bit more traits than a guy like Max Duggan. All right, on to Utah linebacker, and let me pull this sucker up because I have difficulty saying it. It's Mahamoud. And the last name is, he's a former Florida transfer while I pull it up. Diabate. But this cat's former Florida transfer to Utah this season because he wanted to be in a better situation where he would play a more significant role. And he's done that this season. He's been really good like as a rush linebacker. The guy doesn't have coverage prowess. I'll say that. He's more of a minimize, or he will allow minimal gains, but he has little to no splash plays in coverage. But what he brings as a blitzer does make him, I would say, pretty valuable because he is a long and high-end athlete. And just having that length will deter quarterbacks from going his way. Like he's got the length to clog passing lanes and such. Still needs to clean up as a tackler, but honestly, as an athlete, man, the guy is there. He's been very productive as a pass rusher. Just in this game against USC, 7 pressures, 2 sacks. It's that feel for coverage, man. It's that feel for coverage that, or lack thereof, that really has me like pausing on him, making him anything more than a day 3 prospect. But he was definitely, I think, the standout in that USC Utah game. I mean, we could talk about guys like Cam Rising. I don't really think Cam Rising's might be a late day 2 or day 3 guy at best. I think I still have him as a UDFA. He's a good college quarterback that does have a limited arm. You can tell when he throws downfield. He's not able to throw the ball on a rope downfield. And I mean, he's been solid, man. He's been solid. But let's talk about the USC side of things. Going to the center prospect, Brett Neilon, and he is 6'2", 295, which, yes. Not ideally, you want to be plus 300. So the size isn't great. I mean, heads up, I got like a 6-round grade on this cat, just because he's been so good the last 2 seasons. He's played center basically his whole career. Former 4-star from the 2017 class, so he is a bit of an older prospect. I think he'll be 25 by the time he begins his rookie season. But this cat has been a starter since 2019, so a lot of experience from him. He possesses really good hands, does his best work in close quarters, which kind of makes sense. And is just like he's very fundamentally sound. Like I think he's a guy that could go to the next level and be solid. He could be a solid depth piece. Like as a pass protector, man, he is really improved this year. He only allowed a pressure in this game against Utah. He's only allowed 8 pressures this whole season, with 4 of them coming in that first meeting against Utah. So he kind of got this was kind of his revenge game, except for they still lost. But like he's undersized, and for a guy that is undersized, the movement skills aren't extraordinary, which you would hope for a guy that is sub 300. They just aren't. He loses power when on the move, actually, which is kind of wild, and his hands just don't hit that hard. But again, technically sound, just a good player, good prospect. If you're looking for a possible depth piece later in the draft, I think this is the guy you're going to be looking at. Voorhees, unfortunately, did not play in the conference championship game, so that was actually a big hit for the Trojans. Wow, I forgot totally what the mascot was for USC. I guess it kind of is what it is. And then Tyjae Spears out of Tulane. I talked about him a few weeks ago, probably I think it was in a stock report video, but he had a freaking banger game against Central Florida this past week. 22 carries, 119 yards, and a TD. You can go look up one of the highlights from this game. It involves him just like kind of turning the corner on the outside, having to jump over one of his players, cutting him back, and like it was the touchdown play. So if you just want to look for his only touchdown in that game, that was it. So this cat I'll cover a little bit of his background since I kind of probably already did that a few weeks ago, but he played in 3 games his redshirt season in 2019, or 2020, excuse me. Ended up suffering a season in ACL and meniscus tear that year, and it was something like mentally it really messed with him trying to get back to full strength. And I mean, even going into 2021, he was still struggling with that. But like this year has just been absolutely amazing. He's looked exceptionally healthy. This is a guy that is a home run threat waiting to happen, very light on his feet. He accelerates exceptionally well when he plants his foot, so that's good to see. After like the meniscus and ACL a couple of years ago, it's good to see him do that. He's always fallen forward on contact, but you look at that size, 5'11", 195. It's okay. It's not like ideal. Typically you want to be at that like 215 for a running back. It's just not ideal size. But honestly, if you could throw on 10 more pounds, it'd be great. While like this is the guy I do have questions with his contact balance. At least what will it look like in the NFL when you're playing against NFL caliber talent? Will you still have this type of physicality he plays with? Because he's got this mindset of just always moving forward by any means possible. Will that still be a thing in the NFL when the guys hit a lot harder? Pass protection, kind of poo-poo is what it is. Runs the basic running back route tree. Not that we're not going to know much about him as a receiver outside of that. And really the biggest thing I kind of like pause on is the size, or is the size / contact balance at the NFL level. But like I just love how this dude wants to play. I love how he wants to play. I love that he combines that with this just great speed and great elusiveness. He was offered in their season finale, so before the American Conference game, he was offered a Senior Bowl invite, so I'm eager to see if he takes that, but he does have more eligibility available. So just going to put that out there. On to the next one on the list, being Jamal Hines out of Toledo. Had himself a freaking game. 4 tackles, 6 pressures, and this cat is kind of my cup of tea in terms of what they do as a pass rusher. He's 6'3", 250, and he never stops moving his feet. Like, he might be having one of the most explosive first steps in this class. And he's always timing the snap right, and he just explodes into the tackle or into the guard and never stops moving his feet. He's got a very good bull rush, but he is a bit of a bull in a china shop. Like, he does play a little bit of out of control and off balance. There are times you're going to see this guy on the ground. And honestly, I think ideally I project him to be like a 5-tech, 4-tech in the NFL, which means he'll probably need to put more weight on then. I mean, because this cat looks bigger than 250. He really does. It looks like he could maybe be 265. So kind of curious what he'll really measure out at. Another guy that just accepted a Senior Bowl invite, really eager to see what he can do there. Though he is kind of a one-move pony when it comes to what he does as a pass rusher. He doesn't have a big toolbox. He has hardly no counters. If this guy is stonewalled, he's just going to keep clawing, scratching until he can get something done there. And it's not like he's bringing in like elite strength, elite power to his game. Like, I would say he's got solid power throughout his frame, but he plays with strong hands. He plays with violent hands. You do like to see that. It's not bendy. He's not like a flexible edge rusher. That's why I kind of think maybe he could be like this, maybe a strong side 4-3 end, or maybe a 3-4 end in the NFL. Again, a guy that's lacking a big toolbox of pass rush moves. Isn't flexible, isn't bendy, but he has been great for Toledo. He's basically been starting since he arrived there in 2018. And he's having, again, another guy who's having a career year. 38 pressures, 7 sacks on the season. Good for you. I love how that looks. A very good run defender, by the way. A guy that is very good at locating the ball in the backfield and does a good job of disengaging with blockers when he needs to. So a guy I'm exceptionally excited to see at the Senior Bowl. He was on my preseason list on guys to watch that I just never got to. So I was really happy that I was able to get a chance to watch him this week. He had a really good game against Ohio. Really, really did. Now let's talk about Stetson Bennett, because I haven't talked about Stetson Bennett all year, because I'm going to be real with you guys. I don't consider Stetson Bennett a NFL caliber prospect. I really don't. I just don't. Sorry, not sorry. He might be like a UDFA, but not really a priority UDFA, in my opinion. So he's going to get that. He's a guy that's 25, so you know this cat can't fill out that 5'11", 190 frame. He really can't. He's not going to be getting bigger. He's not going to be getting taller. He's got an okay arm at best. Like, he doesn't have great arm strength. He doesn't throw with a lot of zip. Like what he's doing at Georgia, he's very much a rhythm passer. There's like a clock in his head. He goes through his progressions quickly. He actually has a really quick release, and he's pretty accurate underneath and on the intermediate, but he is very much this rhythm passer that likes to throw with time and anticipation. He can extend the play with his legs, and to be fair, like, sneaky shifty, sneaky elusive, but I don't think he can get by with that in the NFL. So it's just like, for anything that would make him I guess attractive as a quarterback prospect in the NFL, there's really nothing. There's not much meat on the bone. Like he has been like teammates, coaches are open about how great of a teammate and leader he is, just a natural born leader. And I'm going to tell you this, I really think in the next 4 to 5 years, he ends up becoming like quarterback's coach at Georgia. Like we've seen with Tommy Rees there at Notre Dame, Graham Harrell kind of went that route as well. I bet you that rather than sitting on a practice squad, I bet you he's going to end up being an assistant coach somewhere, likely Georgia. But yeah, listen, very good college player that's had a good college career. Just a very limited to no upside in the NFL, but had a banger game in the SEC championship game against LSU, and I really just wanted to mention him. I also want to mention a couple of the other guys in this LSU game, LSU Georgia game. That Jalen Carter had a field day. Who would have thought? Jalen Carter's freaking amazing. Keyshawn Butte had a pretty good game on the day. Keely Ringo got thrown at a lot. I think he allowed a 50% catch rate, but he was thrown at 12 times, and he did allow a lot of yards. And unfortunately with Keely Ringo, man, he's a cat that'll let you beat him all day on comeback routes and such. Like, he doesn't want to get beat over the top. And then there are times where you catch him biting, coming down, and now he's playing catch up from behind. So it wasn't the best game for Keely Ringo, but you look at those guys, that guy's, his physical tools and his athleticism and his speed, and you're just kind of like, okay, he's a little rough around the edges. You don't really care. You don't really mind much. So yeah, Keely Ringo's kind of a freak in that regard. And I think those are kind of the only guys I really wanted to touch up on in that game. Let's go to the Michigan-Purdue game and talk about Eyabi Okie, edge out of Michigan, a guy that has had a troubled past. We'll talk about that in a sec. But 6 pressures and a sack here against Purdue. Looked really good. Let's go over the back row. I guess let's just go over the player, but he's 6'6", 270. He's been mainly just a rotation player this season. He's actually done a very good job at that this year. Dude just has ridiculous get off for a man his size. Like, he's very physically gifted. He shows strong hands. He's a tough assignment to handle for really anybody. He shows good closing speed on balls in the backfield. But honestly, his time away from football, and we'll get to in a second. He's played football the last 2 seasons, which was great to see. But he had like a 3-year hiatus from football prior to that. So it's good to see him being very productive, especially in the Big Ten, because he did it the year before at Tennessee Martin. But again, it's like he's going to have to answer some questions about what happened in the past. If you don't know, former 5-star recruit out of the 2018 class, and he really just started playing football when he was a junior in high school, where he had just ridiculous back-to-back years. Ended up being recruited by Alabama. He was a rotation player his first season, made the SEC all-freshman team, but then he was dismissed from the team for undisclosed violations related to either the team or the university. He ended up transferring to Houston and had to sit out the 2019 season because of transfer rules at the time, and ended up being dismissed before the spring of 2020 for a plethora of reasons and rumors. I didn't see anything that really verified these things, but this was some of the stuff that was believed. It was like skipping class, tardiness, clashing with teammates, and just insubordination. So now from there, he transfers to Tennessee Martin, excuse me, where he had to sit out again because of the transfer rules at that time, but looked really good at Tennessee Martin. Comes to Michigan in a rotation role, looked exceptionally good. So maybe a guy you might be like, a lot of people will be willing to, like, it's kind of a no-brainer. You get to like the 6th, 7th round and you're like, yeah, let's take a shot on this guy. Easy. He's got a pedigree and he's been productive in a rotation role. But you're really going to have to answer some of the character stuff, see how far behind him that stuff is. That's just kind of like that's the truth. That's the reality of the situation. And then we're going to go to Purdue with Charlie Jones. I have talked about Charlie Jones this season. I think I talked about him in week 3 of college football where they faced Syracuse, and haven't really been back around him, which is a shame. He's had a banger year. This game, he had 13 receptions for 162 yards. He finished the season with over 1,300 yards and 12 tutties. But I really got him as a UDFA. I really do. He is 6 foot 188. He is a bit of the older prospects. He was a former recruit from the 2017 class. where he went to Buffalo, redshirted his freshman season at Buffalo, and then in 2018 he saw a little bit of action as the fourth receiver, and then but really carved out a role as a returner, which that's good. You want to bring that to the NFL. But after that year with Buffalo, he transfers to Iowa, had to sit out the 2019 season because of transfer rules at the time. And then he in the shortened 2020 season, he primarily was a return man and actually made second team Big Ten that year because of that. And then in 2021, he played in all 14 games, started 9 of them. He was a first team All Big Ten as a return specialist once again. And then he decided, you know what? I'm not just a return specialist. I really want to showcase my skills. Moves on to Purdue. Monster year. Now, this dude, really good route runner, really is. Does a great job of finding soft spots in coverage. He's a fluid athlete who catches and runs all in one movement. You love to see it. It's the Cooper Kupp type of transition from pass catcher to ball carrier. You love to see that. He tracks the ball extremely well in air, adjusts his body well to the pass, which is saying a lot. Because this guy's made all kinds of I don't want highlight passes. Not all of them were acrobatic, but this is a guy that's willing to lay out for the ball, and you love to see it. He's been very sure-handed this season, 3% drop rate. You want to keep that number under 10%. He's at 3, which means extraordinary. You love to see it, but he does lack explosiveness. He isn't a high-end athlete. While he's a fluid athlete, he's not a high-end one. He doesn't really offer much after the catch. Typically goes down on contact, and he's a bit inconsistent at a high point of the football. He's typically not the first guy at the catch point, which makes sense that he has had 42 contested catch opportunities this season. Luckily, he's been very good in traffic and in those contested catch opportunities. I think he could probably add a little bit more bulk, and he could be this nice possession receiver in the NFL. But with the limited upside, I currently got him as a priority UDFA. And I've seen him go in day 2 for some people, and that ain't it, boss. Let's talk about Aiden O'Connell in this game. As you know what, Aiden O'Connell is Aiden O'Connell. And you'd be like, what the hell does that mean? What do you mean Aiden O'Connell is Aiden O'Connell? Well, you got to take the good with the bad. This is a guy that can make big time throws, but he's got all these turnover worthy plays as well. We saw 3 turnover worthy plays in this game, 2 interceptions from O'Connell, but he's played exceptionally well. I would say it wasn't as good as last season. Last season was just phenomenal. Everything's down this year in terms of the big time plays. The turnover worthy throws are up this season. The adjusted completion percentage is lower. And I think a lot of that obviously has to do with losing David Bell. But I mean, he's made great use of guys like Durham Payne, his tight end, and Charlie Jones. But I think O'Connell is just the type of guy that you're gonna have to live with. Yeah, sometimes he's gonna risk it in spots where he's gonna try to make special passes, and he just doesn't have an arm capable of making those passes. And you're gonna have to live with the turnovers with him. I think he's got really good backup potential, and honestly, I think that makes him draftable. Really, going ahead and looking into this class right now, he might be one of the guys I like at the back end of the day 3. Depending if Devin Leary comes out, I think I'd rather take Aiden O'Connell at this point. Aiden O'Connell's real good. To be fair, we didn't see a lot of Devin Leary this season. But O'Connell, man, I think he's fine. I wanted to mention him since this is the game. This is the Big Ten championship game. I thought he gave it a good go, but kind of is what it is. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing, and as always, Until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.